are just a maid's kid.
You have no right to get near my boss. Borrow money? Don't drag his name into your family's poverty. Tears gathered in the child's eyes, but the voice stayed firm. I don't know what rights I have, Mom, but I do know my mom needs medicine. Everyone turned as the massive front door swung open. The billionaire stepped out. His voice was cold, his presence heavy. Who is that kid? And why is he holding a necklace only I ever gave? Hello, it's Mr. Hope again. Come along with me to the very end, and I promise you will be delighted, thrilled, and inspired by this amazing story. Enjoy. The afternoon sun burned hot that day, testing everyone's patience as people rushed to get home. A boy was slowly walking toward a place that didn't seem meant for him. Eli, 10 years old, thin and sun-dark from walking, stopped in front of a mansion ringed by high walls and an iron gate. In his small hand, he gripped a crumpled envelope. In his chest, his heart pounded. He drew a deep breath and whispered to himself, I can do this. For Mum, even if they laugh, even if they drive me away. I won't give up. He'd hesitated for a long time about coming closer. He'd stared at the big gate again and again. A security guard stood there, serious face, cap pulled low. Eli didn't know how to begin. He remembered the doctor's question that morning. Do you have money for the medicine? And he remembered his mother's pale face, the cough, the weakness. He squeezed the envelope. Inside was the prescription. In his heart, this felt like the only way. I'll borrow the money. I may be a kid, but I'll pay it back when I grow up. He walked carefully toward the gate, his flip-flops nearly torn through, slapped against the concrete. The guard noticed him right away. Hey, kid, the guard barked, brows furrowed. Where do you think you're going? This is off limits. Eli stopped, swallowed his nerves, and forced a smile. Mister, could I please speak with your boss? The guard lifted an eyebrow. Huh? What do you need from our boss? Eli gathered his courage and held out the envelope. I need help, sir. That's a prescription. My mom is sick. She needs medicine. The guard was startled and fell silent for a moment. And? What do you want to happen? Eli's voice was brave but shaking. I want to borrow the money, sir. I'll pay it back when I grow up. The guard stiffened at that. He didn't know whether to laugh or feel pity. He looked at the scrawny kid, sweaty, sunburned, yet standing his ground. Another guard who'd overheard came closer. What did you say? Borrow. Eli nodded. Yes, sir. I'm not asking for a handout, he added. I promise I'll pay it back. The two guards glanced at each other, as if they couldn't believe what they were hearing. It wasn't every day a kid spoke this boldly, least of all at the mansion of a billionaire. Eli felt the weight of their stares on him, but he didn't back down. He stepped closer to the gate and gently pressed his small hands to the bars so they could hear him clearly. I can't just do nothing. If I don't try, I'll lose my mum. I know I'm small and I don't have money, but I have my word. One day, I'll pay back everything I owe. Two gardeners walked by with plants from inside. They stopped when they heard Eli's voice. They didn't laugh. They didn't sneer. One of them even nodded and murmured, That kid's got guts. A housekeeper came out with trash. She paused and watched the scene. She saw the desperation and honesty in the child's eyes. Still, no one answered his plea. Only silence and the guard's cold look surrounded him. When Eli felt no one would respond, he bowed his head a little. Tears pooled at the edge of his eyes, but he wiped them away with his arm. I won't cry. I can't give up. He spoke again, steadier this time. Sir, even if you don't let me in, I'll stand right here. I'll wait until someone listens to me. A child had found the courage to stand against the world. armed only with a wish to save his mother. Eli stood quietly at the gate, clutching the envelope, his fear and courage clashing in his chest. But before he could catch his breath, the people around him began to mock. 2 maids came over, each carrying a basket of fruit, unable to contain their giggles. "My God, kid, do you hear yourself? You're going to borrow money from our boss?" One snickered. "You think Mr. Ramirez is a bank?" The other chimed in, laughing loudly. Eli's hands trembled, but he didn't step back. "It's true. I'll pay it back when I'm older." They cackled even harder. "Pay it back when he's older? You're only 10. You sure you'll even make it to an age where you can pay?" From inside came Ashley, the boss's secretary, high heels, a folder in hand, every step dripping with arrogance. She raised an eyebrow as soon as she saw the child. "What now?" "Which stray kid wandered up to our gate?" "Ma'am," the guard said, "he wants to borrow money from the boss for his mom's medicine." Ashley's jaw nearly dropped. Then she burst out laughing. "Borrow? Kid, do you even know who you're asking? He's not a lending app. He's a billionaire, not a savior for every hard luck case." She swept Eli aside and pushed him away from the gate. "You're just a maid's kid, right? You have no right to come here. If you show up again, I'm calling the cops." A tear slid down Eli's cheek, but he stood firm. "I don't know what rights I have. I only know my mum needs medicine." The mansion's large door swung open again. Everyone looked up. Heavy footsteps approached. Mr. Alexander Ramirez, a well-known billionaire, strode out. His face was serious, his presence commanding. Silence fell instantly. The house staff bowed their heads. Ashley straightened, suddenly stiff and formal. "Sir," she blurted, I'm sorry. He's just some stray kid pestering us to borrow money." "I'm clearing him out now." Mr. Ramirez raised his hand, signaling her to be quiet. He studied Eli from head to toe. "Kid," he said, voice cool, "is what she said true? You're asking to borrow money from me?" Eli nodded slowly, standing as straight as he could. "Yes, sir. I'm not asking for anything free, just a loan. I'll pay it back when I'm older." The air went still. Even the birds in the garden seemed to hush. "You'll pay me back when you're older?" Mr. Ramirez repeated, one eyebrow slightly raised. "What assurance can you give me you'll make good on that?" Eli bit his lip. "I'll study hard, sir. I'll work, any job I can find. I won't give up. I promise I'll repay the loan." Mr. Ramirez gave a faint, chilly chuckle. To him, it sounded like a joke, a kid asking for a loan, 10 years old with no future yet. "Do you know what it's like, kid?" he said. "Every day, thousands come to me asking for money. Grown-ups, college grads, all of them say they'll pay me back. Most of them vanish. And you, barefoot in broken flip-flops, why should I trust you?" Eli's knees quivered, but he fought back the urge to cry. "I'm not like them, sir. I won't run. I just want my mum to live." Mr. Ramirez stared at the boy. Something tugged at his chest, something he couldn't explain. In this child's simple presence, he saw what he rarely saw in others: courage, honesty, desperation. He masked the feeling quickly and turned away. "I don't lend money," he said. "You're just playing for pity." "Don't waste my time." Eli froze as if cold water had been dumped on his heart. But before all hope could drain away, he stepped back up to the gate and shouted, "Sir, even if you don't believe me, I'll still pay you back when I grow up. Just please don't let my mom be without medicine." Mr. Ramirez stopped walking. He didn't look back, but he heard the child's voice, so earnest it stirred a night he'd tried to forget. He faltered for a moment, fists clenching. He didn't understand why the boy's face pinched at his chest. He turned slowly, giving Eli a cool, unreadable look. No words, no expression, but his eyes held a hidden question. The household staff were puzzled. Vanessa didn't understand why the boss hadn't already had the kid thrown out. Ashley stared, unsure whether she saw anger or mercy in the billionaire's eyes. And as the day faded, one question wrapped itself around Mr. Ramirez. Why do I feel this way about that child? Mr. Ramirez sat quietly in his second-floor office. The curtains were open, afternoon light spilling in, but to his eyes, the room still felt dim. A pen rested idle on his desk. A contract waited for his signature. His hand wouldn't move. The boy's face at the gate kept replaying in his mind. The boy who'd said, "I'll pay you back when I'm older." He shook his head, trying to distract himself. He's just a kid. People come to me every day, nothing unusual. Yet as he stared out the window, a shadow crept into his memory. The shape of the eyes, the upright bearing in one so young. Something familiar. His fist tightened. Impossible. His mind drifted back 10 years. The mansion had been loud then. Big party, business guests, him drunk on success. In the middle of the celebration, he'd noticed a long-time housekeeper, Rose. Quiet, hard-working, barely noticed by the guests. That night, by chance, they crossed paths in a corner of the kitchen. "You okay, Rose?" he'd asked, tipsy and off balance. "Yes, sir." "Sorry for the trouble. I'll get back to work," she'd said, embarrassed. He couldn't forget her eyes, a mix of fear and sadness, and a warmth that confused him. The next morning she was gone. She'd quit without a word. "Sir, Rose just disappeared," the head housekeeper had said. "We don't know where she went." He'd brushed it aside then. Business to run, deals to close. He'd figured it was just a maid's decision to leave. But now, seeing that boy, the old question returned. Why did she vanish after that night? Mr. Ramirez went to a cabinet where old staff belongings were stored. He opened a box he hadn't touched in years. There were uniforms, old employee lists, thank you notes from former workers. He saw the name, Rose Ramirez. His chest grew heavy as he read the file. Same last name as the boy who'd called himself Eli Ramirez. The next day, he summoned his longtime manager. "Aunt Lorraine," he asked, "do you remember Rose, the housekeeper who left 10 years ago?" Aunt Lorraine fell quiet, then nodded. "Yes, sir." She was kind, quiet. One day she just left. No note, no goodbye. "Did you hear any reason? Anyone say why?" he pressed, keeping his voice calm. She shook her head. "No, sir. But if you ask me, there was a sadness in her eyes that last night." Mr. Ramirez stared at his desk, mind restless. If she is the boy's mother, does that mean... He cut off the thought, afraid of the possibility. Alone in the office, the scene came back. The last night with Rose in the kitchen. The heat of alcohol, the sudden closeness. What he hadn't expected. His forehead burned with the weight of memory. He hadn't meant for it to happen, but he knew something had happened that should not have. And the next day, Rose was gone. No, he told himself. It can't be that simple. Plenty of people are named Ramirez. Same last name doesn't make him my son. Still, he couldn't shake the question. Why did seeing that boy feel like looking into a mirror from long ago? That night before bed, he looked in the mirror and saw Eli's eyes in his mind, saw his own childhood reflected back. "If it's true," he whispered, "I don't know if I'm ready for anyone to know." In the dark of his room, all the memories he'd buried began to rise again, summoned by a child brave enough to knock on his door. Eli went home from the mansion with heat still prickling his skin. He didn't know if he'd helped his mom or only made things worse. He couldn't forget the billionaire's eyes, cold, yet with a question hiding inside. When he entered their tiny rented room in a run-down neighborhood, the smell of boiled collard greens greeted him. His mother, Rose, lay on a thin mattress, gaunt, pale, shoulders shaking with coughs. Seeing Eli sweaty and out of breath, Rose's eyes widened. "Eli, where did you go? Why do you look like that?" He sat at the edge of the mattress, set down the envelope, and tried to smile. "Mum, I went to the mansion. To your old boss. I tried to—" He didn't finish. Rose's voice rose, furious, frightened. "What? Why would you go there?" She coughed hard, clutching her chest, then spoke again. "You don't know what you're doing, Eli. You don't know the trouble that can bring." Eli stared, shocked by her reaction. "Mum, I just wanted to help. We're out of money. We have no one else." Rose took her son's hand, trembling. "You don't understand. Some things are heavier than hunger and pain. If they find out you went there, we could be in danger." "But, Mum—" "No but, Eli." Tears spilled as Rose pulled a hand over her face. Her body shook, not only with illness, but with fear. Eli bowed his head in silence. He didn't know how to explain that nothing mattered more to him than saving his mother. No matter how many times he was scolded or pushed away, his desire to see her get well wouldn't disappear. "Mum," he whispered, "if I can't go back there, what will we do?" "What will you do?" Rose didn't answer. Only tears slid slowly down her cheeks. In the end, she hugged her son tight. "I'm sorry, child. I just can't lose you. You're my whole life, so please, don't ever do that again. Don't risk yourself." In that embrace, Eli felt the weight of his mother's secret, a fear he couldn't name. In his young mind, a question began to form. What had Mom hidden in that mansion? Rose lay down and coughed hard again. Eli rubbed her back, eyes stinging. Outside, dogs barked and neighbors argued, but inside there was only fear and love circling the room. In his chest, Eli made a decision. "If Mum won't let me go back there, I won't go back, but I won't stop until I find a way to save her." The small room glowed with a weak lamp. With every cough, the walls seemed to rattle. Rose tried to hide it, but she was getting worse. She coughed hard again, blood spotting her handkerchief. Eli panicked, grabbed a glass of water, and helped her sit up. "Mum, it's happening again. We really need those medicines." Rose shook her head, forcing a small smile, though her lips were darkening. "We have no money, honey. Let it be, if this is what's meant for me." "No," Eli cried, tears breaking loose. "I won't accept that. I won't lose you." He lay awake all night, staring at the ceiling, listening to his mother cough beside him. He knew, even at his age, they had no one else to turn to. In his mind, the mansion came back again. The cold looks there, the staff's insults, his mother's fear. But above all, he remembered one thing, his promise to himself that he'd do anything to save her. The next morning, with an old backpack on and the necklace his mother had given him around his neck, Eli decided to try the mansion again. At the gate, the guards recognized him immediately. "You're back?" one said, incredulous. "Yes, sir," Eli replied, steady. "I really need to speak with your boss." The guard scratched his head. "Didn't I tell you yesterday?" Before he could finish, the front door opened. Mr. Ramirez stepped out with his new secretary, Clarissa, who held a call list. "Sir, this is another interruption," Clarissa whispered. Mr. Ramirez lifted a hand. "Let him be." He approached the gate and looked the boy over. "Why did you come back? Didn't I already tell you?" "Sir, we're running out of time," Eli said. "My mum's getting worse. Insults won't stop me. Even if you push me away 100 times, I'll keep coming back. I'm asking to borrow money. Again." Clarissa's eyes widened. "You're still going to borrow? My God, kid." She stopped short when she noticed something glinting at Eli's throat. Mr. Ramirez froze. He stepped closer, almost pressing to the iron bars, eyes disbelieving. "That necklace," he whispered. Eli's hand flew to the pendant, trying to hide it under his shirt. "It's from my mum," he said. "She told me never to lose it because it's important." Mr. Ramirez went cold. He knew that necklace. He'd given it to Rose many years ago. Only one person should have it. Impossible, he told himself, struggling for breath. Silence stretched. Then Mr. Ramirez spoke, voice no longer icy but weighted. "Bring the boy inside," he ordered the guards, "and get the car." "I'll handle this." Clarissa blinked. "Sir, are you sure?" "He's just a kid." "I said I'll handle it," he replied firmly. The guards exchanged looks and opened the gate. Eli stepped in, shaking but full of hope. He couldn't believe what he saw. Huge chandeliers, thick carpets, portraits of powerful-looking people on the walls. But he had no time to marvel. His mother was waiting. "Sir," he asked softly, "why are you helping me?" Mr. Ramirez stared at the necklace on the boy's chest. He couldn't answer plainly. "Because there's something I need to confirm." In the car, Mr. Ramirez watched Eli, studying every movement, every word. Eli clutched the envelope, praying this time he could save his mother. In Mr. Ramirez's mind, a single question hammered away. How did that necklace, one only I gave, end up with him? In their tiny room, the lamplight was dim. Rose sat on the edge of the mattress, gripping a blood-specked handkerchief. Beside her was Eli, lively but obviously worn down by everything. Before they could even start dinner, 2 men knocked on the door, security from the mansion. "Good evening, Mom." "Mr. Ramirez has sent help." Rose froze, eyes widening. Clarissa stepped in behind them, carrying a box of medicine and a stuffed envelope. "Mom," Clarissa said politely, "my boss asks that you stop worrying about the costs. His company will cover your treatment." Eli looked at his mother, eyes lighting up. "Mom, did you hear? Mr. Ramirez is helping us." Instead of joy, rage and fear flooded Rose's face. "No," she said through clenched teeth. "Tell your boss I won't accept a thing from him." "We don't need anything from him." Clarissa was taken aback. "Ma'am, this is cash and medicine. Free, at least for now." "I said no," Rose snapped, coughing so hard the last word broke apart. "Tell him never to involve my son." Eli teared up. "Mum, why? Isn't this what we asked for? Medicine so you can get better?" Rose squeezed his hand tightly. "You don't understand, Eli. Help like that comes with a price, and I will not let you be the one to pay it." Eli frowned. "A price? What do you mean?" Rose couldn't answer. She bowed her head and cried. Terrified the past she'd tried to bury would return, she relived her last night in that mansion. The weight of staring eyes, the shame afterward. The next day she had no choice but to leave. From then on she'd promised herself, no one will ever know what happened, especially him. "Mum," Eli said, hugging her, "if you're afraid I'll get hurt, I won't. I promise I'll study hard. I won't be a burden. If there's a price, I'll take it. Just please don't stay sick." "No, child." Rose brushed his hair, tears gathering again. "You don't know how heavy the truth is. And if the day comes when you learn it, you might hate me." She pushed the medicine box away. "We're not taking this, Eli. I'll find another way. I'll do laundry for the neighbors, peel potatoes at a diner, whatever it takes. Just don't go back to that mansion." Eli's heart sank, as if everything he'd worked for had crumbled. But as much as it hurt, he couldn't defy his mother. That night, while she slept, he massaged her thin arms, and knew she didn't have long without proper care. The question spun through his mind again and again. What is Mom hiding? Why is she so afraid of Mr. Ramirez's help? Before he fell asleep, he gripped the necklace at his throat and made a silent vow. No matter what Mom says, I will still find a way. I won't let her down. In the dark, Rose cried quietly, terrified the secret she'd guarded for years would spill out. Across town, Mr. Ramirez stood at his office window, unable to shake the image of the necklace on the boy's neck. Neither of them knew the truth was closer to exploding than they thought. Early the next morning, Eli and Rose were already at the hospital. Rose was pale, thin, and weak. Lying in bed with an IV in her hand, she could no longer walk far, so Eli kept busy taking care of everything. As he wiped down the bed frame with a washcloth he'd found, Mr. Ramirez entered the room with 2 nurses. He stood quietly by the door, watching. At 10 years old, Eli knew how to care for a patient, how to call a nurse when needed, how to wipe his mother's brow with a clean cloth. "Sir," a nurse whispered, "this is the patient. The company has covered the essentials." Mr. Ramirez only nodded, eyes lingering on the boy bustling about. In his mind, he's only 10, but I see a courage and devotion I don't often find in adults. Eli noticed the billionaire's presence and sprang to his feet. He felt nervous but bowed his head politely. "Sir, thank you for bringing us here." "I'm sorry for the trouble." Mr. Ramirez was surprised. He was used to complaints, to begging, to demands from those he helped. But this child knew how to be grateful and didn't ask for more than necessary. "Kid," he said, voice cool but edged with warmth, "don't think you're a bother. You're doing what any child should do days past." Whenever he could, Mr. Ramirez dropped by the hospital. At first he told himself it was only to check on the patient's condition, but as time went on, everyone noticed he stayed longer. He sat by the bed, listening to Eli talk about school, about his dream of becoming a teacher, and about the simple joy of playing marbles and flicking a soda bottle cap he'd painted blue. One evening, he found Eli organizing his notebook while watching over Rose. "What are you doing?" Mr. Ramirez asked. "Studying, sir, even here at the hospital." "I can't neglect school," the boy said. Mr. Ramirez smiled to himself. Brave and bright. Like me when I was young, he thought. One day, 3 boys from the neighborhood came to visit Eli. Seeing him in the hospital, they teased him. "Hey, Eli! You live here now?" One jeered. "Maybe the doctors will make you their janitor," another added. Tears pricked Eli's eyes, but he stood tall. "I'm not ashamed. I'm glad I'm here for my mum." Mr. Ramirez heard it from the doorway. He watched silently, a strange ache in his chest. The boy had dignity despite his poverty. I never thought someone so young could be this strong. It became routine to see Eli pushing his mother's wheelchair, buying food from the cafeteria with coins, or sitting by the bed holding Rose's hand. Once, Mr. Ramirez found the child asleep at the bedside, head resting on his mother's arm. He quietly instructed a nurse, "Get him a blanket and make sure he has warm milk in the morning." Rose noticed, seeing the boss's tenderness toward her son, her anxiety sharpened. My God, this can't happen. If their bond deepens, the truth will come out. But Mr. Ramirez couldn't help it. The more he saw the boy's strength and goodness, the more he admired him. Part of him feared his suspicion was right about who Eli was. A larger part of him hoped. One night, before leaving, he patted Eli's shoulder. "Kid, keep being strong. No matter what happens, don't quit school. One day you'll go far." Eli smiled and nodded. "I promise, sir. I'll do everything for my mum and for the people who believe in me." Hearing that, Mr. Ramirez looked into the boy's eyes and saw his own younger self, hopeful, brave, compassionate. As he walked out into the hallway, he stopped and drew a deep breath, fighting emotions he didn't want to show. Why is it that whenever I see him, it feels like he's not just some kid, it feels like he's part of my life? In his chest, something long forgotten stirred, the honest love of a father, not as a billionaire, but as a man. That night, the office air felt cool as Mr. Ramirez sat surrounded by paperwork he couldn't focus on. His mind kept returning to Eli and to the necklace. He couldn't sit with doubt any longer. He called his most trusted man, Marshall, a former soldier who now handled private investigations. "Marshall," he said gravely, "I want you to investigate everything about a woman named Rose Ramirez. She used to work here. She disappeared 10 years ago. And look into her son." Eli Marshall nodded. "Yes, sir. I'll start first thing tomorrow." The next day, Marshall visited former employees. Some were retired now, living in small American towns. "Do you remember Rose?" he asked an elderly gardener, Mr. Dell. The old man nodded. "Yeah, quiet woman, kept to herself. One day she just vanished. We don't know why. Notice anything unusual before she left?" Marshall pressed. Mr. Dell thought a moment. "Well, the night before, someone heard her crying in the kitchen." Next day, gone, Marshall then visited Mr. Ramirez's former secretary, Lydia, who now ran a little shop in town. "Oh, Rose, I remember her," Lydia said. "Sweet girl. There were rumors back then. People said she was too close to Mr. Ramirez. But just talk. Still, I can't say I was shocked when she left, like she was running from something." Days later, Marshall returned with his report. "Sir," he began, "it's true. Rose left suddenly. No note, no goodbye. But the staff stories line up. Something happened that last night no one understood. After that, she disappeared." Mr. Ramirez read in silence. His eyes stopped at the name, Eli Ramirez. He walked to the big office window and stared over the manicured lawn. In his mind, the pieces began to interlock. Rose, the housekeeper who vanished, Eli, the 10-year-old boy, the necklace, one he alone had given Rose. "If my hunch is right," he whispered, "Eli isn't just any child. He could be my son." Meanwhile, in the hospital, Eli sat beside his mother, holding her hand as she slept. In the corner of the room, Mr. Ramirez stood quietly, watching. "Sir," a nurse murmured, "why are you always here? Aren't you busy with business?" He didn't answer immediately. He looked at Eli, busy keeping watch. Finally, he said softly, "Some things matter more than money." The next day, he tried speaking to Rose. "Rose," he began gently, "it's been a long time. Why did you leave without a word?" Rose's handkerchief nearly slipped from her fingers. Her voice shook. "Sir, there's no use talking about that. It's the past. But there's something I need to know, isn't there?" he asked, firm. Rose shook her head, eyes averted. "No, sir, nothing. And if there is, it's better you don't know." Mr. Ramirez turned away. Inside, his suspicion only hardened. As he left the room, he gripped Marshall's report. The question that had been eating at him was clear now. If he is my son, why did Rose hide this from me? The morning was bright at the hospital. Laughter floated from Rose's room. Eli was feeding his mom rice and trying to make her laugh with stories from school. In a corner, Mr. Ramirez sat quietly, watching the mother and child. "Sir," a nurse whispered, "Eli's not eating properly. He always puts his mom first." Mr. Ramirez chuckled softly, set a paper bag on the table. "Here, fried chicken and rice, and milk for the boy." Eli stared, eyes wide. "Sir, is this really for me?" Mr. Ramirez nodded. "Yes, if you don't eat, how will you take care of your mum? A soldier eats before a battle." Eli smiled, bit into bread, and nodded. "Thank you, sir." As he ate, he said, "You know, sir, in school, sometimes when I don't have a packed lunch, I bow my head during grace so nobody notices I'm not eating." Mr. Ramirez couldn't answer right away. Pain pricked his chest. He thought, he hides hunger so he won't be ashamed. "Kid," he said, Don't be ashamed of where you are. What matters is you don't give up. One afternoon, while Rose slept, Eli pulled out his toys, a single marble and a soda cap he'd painted blue. "Sir, do you know how to play marbles?" he asked. Mr. Ramirez laughed. "It's been a while, but yes." The two of them knelt on the hospital floor and started a simple game. Nurses and a patient across the way glanced over, surprised to see a famous billionaire on his knees, playing seriously with a 10-year-old. Eli laughed when he lost. "You're good, sir, but I'll beat you tomorrow." Mr. Ramirez smiled. "I haven't felt this kind of happiness in a long time." That night, sitting on the edge of the bed, Eli suddenly said, "Sir, sometimes I wonder what it'd be like to have a dad. Maybe he'd teach me to ride a bike, take me to the market, buy ice cream on hot days." Mr. Ramirez froze, unsure how to answer. He felt the weight of every word. "I haven't met my dad," Eli said, "but I think he's kind." Like you, Mr. Ramirez almost couldn't breathe. In his chest, a feeling he'd been denying swelled. Rose stirred awake and caught the last line. Her eyes widened. "Eli, don't talk like that." "But Mom, it's just what I think." She pulled him close and squeezed his hand. "You don't need anyone else. You need me." Mr. Ramirez kept quiet. Inside, his attachment to the boy only deepened. Sometimes he brought food for Eli. Sometimes he brought warm milk at night. With each small thing, Eli felt like there was a father watching over him. "Mom," he whispered once they were home, "sometimes Mr. Ramirez, he feels like a dad." Rose froze, forcing a smile. Behind it was the fear that the truth was closing in. One evening, walking out of the hospital, Mr. Ramirez felt a heaviness in his chest. He stopped in the hallway and thought, if what I suspect is true, am I ready to face it? It might be too late to fix the past. A gray afternoon hummed in the hospital room. An electric fan whirred. Eli's marble, bottle cap, and a few stick-figure drawings lay on the table. He knelt on the floor, showing Mr. Ramirez how to flick the cap toward a goal. "See, sir? Like this. Flick here, straight to the target." Eli tried his best move, and the cap nearly flew off course. Mr. Ramirez laughed. "Not your best shot, kid. Here, watch." He flicked with his broad finger, and the cap hit dead on. "Wow!" Eli gaped and clapped. "You're great, sir. Like a dad who knows every game." Mr. Ramirez smiled, something twisting inside him. Before he could answer, the door swung open. Rose stood there, pale from illness and blazing with anger. She stared at the sight of her son laughing with the man she least wanted near them. "Eli!" she cried. The boy stopped and jumped to his feet. "Mom!" Rose stepped forward, each step heavy. She looked Mr. Ramirez straight in the eye, her gaze on fire. "Leave my son alone, sir," she said, voice hard. "You have no right." Eli grabbed her arm. "Mum, he's not a bad person." "Be quiet, Eli," she cut in. "You have no idea what danger that man brings." Mr. Ramirez said nothing at first. He knew yelling back would only make things worse. He felt the weight of Rose's words. There was something deeper she would not expose. "Rose," he said gently, "I mean no harm. I'm only helping you. Eli is young, but he's brave and bright. I don't want to see him sacrifice beyond reason." Rose shook her head, nearly choking on her frustration. "You don't understand. You can't be part of his life. Whatever you did back then, that was enough to make me run, and now you want to meddle again?" Eli's brow knitted. "Mom, why?" "What did he do?" She didn't answer. She pulled him closer. "Remember this, son. Do not go near him. He is not the answer to our problems." Mr. Ramirez stood still, holding himself back. His heart ached. Rose was angry and scared, and he knew there was a reason. Still, it hurt that his care was met with a shove. "Rose," he said softly, "whatever the past was, isn't your life now. and your son's safety more important. Rose shook her head, wiping tears away. Don't use my child as your reason. You don't have the right because you don't know the whole truth. Eli, Mr. Ramirez said quietly, are you obeying your mother because you dislike me or because you're afraid? The boy stared, unsure how to reply. He wanted to say that when Mr. Ramirez was around, it felt like having a dad, someone who played games, brought food, kept watch. But when he saw the terror in his mother's face, he swallowed and lowered his head. I'm sorry, sir, he whispered. I have to do what my mom says. Mr. Ramirez sighed. He would not rip a child's trust away from his own mother. Even if he felt a bond between them, there was nothing he could do while Rose's wall stood firm. If that's what you want, Rose, he said quietly, I won't force you. But please, think of your son's good. Not every wall needs to stay standing. He turned and left the room, carrying an unspoken weight. Eli remained, holding the marble they'd left on the floor. Mom, he asked, why are we angry at him? He's kind. He's helping us. Rose hugged him, trembling. Not everyone who helps is safe to be near. Some wounds only hurt worse when reopened. Eli fell silent, confused. Who exactly was Mr. Ramirez, and why was his mother so afraid? Outside the hospital, Mr. Ramirez stood under a dark sky, the question circling in his chest. If I have no right, why do I feel this way every time I see the boy? And why does Rose act like she's hiding something? Inside, Rose held Eli tight, as if it were her last chance to protect him from a secret closing in. At the mansion, night was quiet, but Mr. Ramirez's mind was not. The question would not leave him. Why do I feel this way when I face Eli? And why is Rose so afraid? Hearsay wasn't enough. Suspicion wasn't enough. He needed certainty. The next day, he visited the hospital as if on a normal call. He wore a simple polo and brought fruit. While Eli played in the corridor with other kids, he approached a nurse and spoke low. Could I request a test, confidentially? The nurse blinked. What kind of test, sir? A DNA test, he said. Collect a sample from that boy, Eli, and my blood sample, too. Quietly, no one can know, not even his mother. The nurse hesitated, clearly uneasy, but the weight of Mr. Ramirez's name and his influence tipped the scale. She nodded. One morning, after Eli had fallen asleep from a long night watching over his mum, the nurse slipped in and carefully took a few strands of his hair. No one noticed. The samples were sealed and handed to Mr. Ramirez. No one can know about this, he warned, especially Rose. From then on, he couldn't settle. Contracts piled up on his desk, unread. In board meetings, he drifted. Sir, are you all right? A director asked. Yes, he said quickly, but he wasn't. His mind kept returning to Eli's eyes. His own younger eyes reflected back, brave, full of dreams, willing to sacrifice for family. One night he returned to the hospital. He found Eli asleep by his mother's bed, hugging his school notebook. Mr. Ramirez stepped near and gently wiped the boy's brow with a handkerchief. If you are my son, he thought, how can I let you grow up without a father? His chest ached. He'd long lived without family, only deals and wealth. But in front of this child, he felt the missing piece. 3 days later, the lab called. Sir, the DNA results are ready. Confidential copy. Direct to you. He sent Marshall to pick them up. When Marshall returned, he handed over the envelope. It felt heavy in Mr. Ramirez's grip, as if his life lay in a few sheets of paper. But he didn't open it yet. He sat in his office, staring at the envelope, thinking a long time. Am I ready to know? What if he is? What if he isn't? He paced, glancing at old family photos, parents long gone, siblings busy with business, faces looking down as if waiting for his decision. At last, he opened the envelope. His hands shook as his eyes moved down the page. Before he finished, his heartbeat thundered. The words were there, clear as day. He folded the paper and slipped it into a drawer. Not yet, he told himself. I have to be ready. He stared into the mirror, a billionaire with everything except certainty of blood. One cloudy afternoon, an elderly woman arrived at the mansion carrying a small tote. She wore a simple dress, hands trembling as she touched the iron gate she'd once passed every day. It was Mrs. Bertha, a former housekeeper who had left years ago and kept her silence. Now, driven by guilt, she had come back to face the secret she'd hidden. The guard noticed. "Ma'am, who are you? What brings you here?" Bertha smiled, voice quivering. "I'm Bertha. I worked here years ago. I need to see Mr. Ramirez. It's very important." The guard hesitated, but her name and the gravity in her tone got her inside. Mr. Ramirez was shocked to see her. "Mrs. Bertha? I thought I'd never see you again." She nodded, clutching her tote. "Sir, forgive me. I hid so much back then. It's time I told you everything." Mr. Ramirez frowned. "What do you mean?" Bertha drew a deep breath. "Sir, do you remember Rose, the housekeeper who vanished after one night?" Mr. Ramirez stiffened. "How could I forget?" Bertha nodded, eyes welling. "Sir, I saw her leave the next morning, crying, shaking. It wasn't just shame pushing her out. Someone came to her that night and threatened her. Said if she didn't leave, they'd ruin her name and yours. Worse, they hinted at something even more dangerous if she stayed." Mr. Ramirez reeled. "What? Who threatened her?" Bertha shook her head, knees faltering. "Sir, it was a cousin of yours." "I was too scared to get involved, so I begged Rose to run instead of getting hurt. I urged her to flee because staying was dangerous." Mr. Ramirez sagged, almost unable to believe it. "Mrs. Bertha, are you saying you knew and never told me? I've spent 10 years looking for answers, and now a child stands before me who may be my son." Bertha fell to her knees. "Yes, sir. Please forgive me. I've carried this guilt every day, but I was afraid. I was just a housekeeper. I had no power to fight those with it." Silence. Mr. Ramirez stared at the floor, emotions piling up. Anger, regret, fear. Deep night at the mansion. A single light burned in Mr. Ramirez's office. On his desk lay the DNA envelope he'd avoided reading fully. He held it now, heavy with meaning. Time to face the truth, he told himself. Before he could open it, a knock sounded. His cousin, Carl Ramirez, stepped in, smirking, a folder in hand, like it contained urgent business. "How's it going, cousin?" Carl's tone was taunting. "I hear you've been busy these days." "Got a secret you're hiding?" Mr. Ramirez's jaw tightened. "What are you doing here at this hour?" Carl dropped into a chair as if it were his office. "I heard about the boy, and I've got a hunch there's a connection. Thought maybe there are documents here that could prove it." Mr. Ramirez's hand tightened on the envelope. "You have no right to meddle. Get out." Carl's eyes darted and caught the envelope. In a flash he stood, pretended to hand over the folder, and snatched the envelope instead. "What are you doing?" Mr. Ramirez roared, lunging and grabbing his cousin's arm. Carl jerked free, shoving a lamp so it crashed to the floor. Papers scattered, a glass shattered. In the chaos, he stuffed the envelope into his coat. "Cousin," he panted, "do you not realize? If people find out you have a son, I lose my shot at inheriting the company. I won't let you ruin my plans." "You have no right to endanger that boy's life," Mr. Ramirez growled, gripping Carl's arm. Carl sneered and elbowed his side to break loose. He bolted for the door with the envelope. Their footsteps thundered down the wide hall. Guards looked up, startled. "Sir!" one shouted. "Stay out of it!" Mr. Ramirez barked, chasing his cousin. At the staircase, Carl toppled a huge vase to block the way. It shattered, but Mr. Ramirez didn't stop. He caught him by the courtyard fountain. They grappled. Carl tried to dunk the envelope into the water to destroy it. Mr. Ramirez seized his wrist with all his strength. "Drop it, Carl. Better this paper rots than I lose everything." They traded blows, gasping, until Carl lost his grip. The envelope skidded across the wet stone, slightly soaked but intact. Both men stood panting. Carl trembled with rage. "You don't know what you're doing, Alex. If the truth comes out, it'll destroy you." Mr. Ramirez's voice was steady. "Lies destroy more." He picked up the damp, crumpled envelope, left Carl in the courtyard, and returned to the office. Alone, he opened the document, eyes sliding line by line. At the end, the words were unmistakable. 99.9% probability, Eli Ramirez is the biological son of Alexander Ramirez. He froze. His hands shook. For the first time, his hard shell cracked and tears fell. "My son," he breathed. "He's my son." He sank into his chair, cradling the paper like a treasure. After a while, he stood, wiped his eyes, and called Marshall. "Run the test again, more discreetly, more carefully. I won't risk a mistake. If this is right, I need to be certain." "Yes, sir," Marshall said. Alone again, Mr. Ramirez looked at a quiet photo Marshall had secretly taken of Eli, smiling, notebook in hand. "Forgive me, son," he whispered. "If only I'd known. Things wouldn't be like this, but now I'll do everything to make it right." Rain poured outside the mansion window. Inside his chest, a fire kindled, the fire of a father who had found the truth. His next step was clear. "I will not let him be kept from me. It's time to take responsibility." The hospital room was bright with morning sun. Rose sat on the edge of the bed, gently stroking Eli's hair as he slept in her lap. The room was quiet until Mr. Ramirez came in, expression heavy. "Rose," he said, voice low, "we need to talk." Rose's eyebrows lifted, fear tightened her features. "What is it now?" Mr. Ramirez drew a deep breath and pulled an envelope from his coat. "I had a DNA test done." Rose went cold, knocking the side table as she jumped to her feet. Her eyes flared. "What?" "Rose," Mr. Ramirez said, voice shaking. "Eli is my son." Eli stirred at the volume, but Rose's anger drowned everything else. "You have no right," she cried, trembling. "How could you do that without telling me?" "I did it because I needed the truth," he answered, nearly shouting. "I've lived 10 years not knowing why you vanished, and now I see a boy who looks like my past. I can't turn away." "You don't know what I went through," Rose said, tears spilling. "Every day I swallowed the pain and the shame just to raise my child without the stain of the past." She wrapped her arms around the sleeping boy, as if shielding him from a storm. "Eli is all I have. I have the right to him, not you. Never you." Mr. Ramirez pressed his fingers to his temple. "Rose, don't you understand? He's my son too, my blood. I have a right as well." "A right?" Rose laughed bitterly through tears. "Where were you when we needed you? Where were you on those nights I cried alone with a baby in my belly? You have no idea what I endured." Mr. Ramirez fell silent, conscience struck. He hadn't been there, he hadn't known, but even so, he couldn't accept having no place in Eli's life. "If you'd told me then, it wouldn't be like this." "I couldn't," Rose cut in, almost shouting. "I was afraid it would destroy you. And when I realized a child had started inside me, I was even more afraid." "From the moment I carried Eli," she said, voice breaking but firm, "I vowed he wouldn't be known as a billionaire's son. I wanted him to be normal, no weight, no judgment, no eyes measuring him. So I hid him, no matter the hardship, no matter how many nights I cried. Mr. Ramirez stared, speechless, hurt and full of admiration. Hurt that his child had been kept from him. Admiration for a mother who had raised a boy alone. "Here we are," Rose said, wiping tears. "You know the truth. But remember, Alex, everything I did for Eli. Not for me, not for you. For him." Mr. Ramirez shook his head, full of remorse. "Rose, forgive me. I didn't know. If I'd known, I wouldn't have let you suffer. But I don't know if I would have been strong enough then." Rose's voice steadied. "That's why I bore it alone. I was sure of one thing. No matter what, I would never leave my child." Mr. Ramirez stood, stepped to the bedside, and brushed Eli's sleeping hair. "I can't undo the past. But I'm here now. I won't leave him." Rose's tears flowed again. "I'm scared, Alex. If he knows you're his father, what if he's taken from me? What if he loves you more than me? What if I'm no longer enough?" Mr. Ramirez gently took her hand. "You don't have to be afraid. A child's love doesn't shrink. You are the light of his life, Rose. Me, I can be a guide at best. Whatever happens, you're his mother. Nothing replaces that." At those words, Rose finally broke. Years of grief poured out. They sat in a hush, only their breathing audible. At last, Rose spoke, soft but clear. "Eli is your son, Alex. No matter how hard it is for me, that's the truth." At that moment, Eli woke, rubbing his eyes. "Mom? Sir? Why are you crying?" Rose hurriedly wiped her cheeks. "It's nothing, honey." Mr. Ramirez couldn't hide it anymore. He had the confirmation he'd long sought, and in his chest he swore, "From now on, I won't let him slip away from me." The night was cool at the hospital, the halls quiet, crickets faintly audible from outside. In the room, Rose slept soundly after a long, exhausting day of tests. Beside the bed sat Eli, still awake. At his side stood Mr. Ramirez, watching the boy, thoughts running deep. "Sir," Eli whispered, "why are you always here? Aren't you busy with work?" Mr. Ramirez smiled, sat beside him. "There's plenty of work, yes, but you matter more than any contract." "Me, sir?" "Yes," he said, gently brushing the boy's hair. "You remind me what really matters. Not money, not business, family." Eli lowered his head, thinking hard. "Sir, can I ask for something?" "What is it, Eli?" "I just want us to be whole, just once, like I have a dad with my mum, eating together, talking, laughing. I just want to feel like I have a family, even if only once." Mr. Ramirez could barely speak. It was the sweetest and heaviest request he'd ever received. The next day, he tried to grant Eli's wish. He brought simple comfort food from the mansion, roast chicken, soup, and a little fried fish. He set the small table in the room and laid out plates. "What are you doing?" Rose asked, just waking up. "Something simple," he said, with a calming smile. "I want us to eat together, for Eli." Rose looked at her son and saw the light in his eyes. She couldn't refuse. The three of them sat together. Eli was the happiest of all, shoveling in rice and laughing. "Sir, look how much I'm eating today. Don't think I'm greedy, I'm just excited." Mr. Ramirez chuckled. "If you're eating well, that means you're getting strong." Even Rose smiled despite herself. It had been a long time since they'd felt anything like this, like a normal family. After the meal, Eli pulled out his notebook and started drawing. He showed them a picture, a small house with 3 people inside, a mum, a dad, and a child. "That's what I want," Eli said simply. "A whole family." Rose's heart sank. Tears trembled as she looked at her son's drawing. She took Eli's hand and breathed deeply. "Son," she said, voice shaking, "I should have told you sooner. The man with us, Mr. Alexander Ramirez, he's your real father. Eli's eyes widened. He turned to Mr. Ramirez. Really, Mom? He's my dad? Mr. Ramirez couldn't find his voice at first, then nodded, eyes wet. Yes, Eli. I'm your father, and from now on, I will never leave you. Eli rushed into his arms and hugged him tight. Mr. Ramirez felt the warmth of a child he hadn't known for so long, a hug that filled all the empty years. Later, when Eli fell asleep, Rose and Mr. Ramirez sat in silence until Mr. Ramirez spoke. Rose, did you see our son's wish? It's simple. He wants us together. Isn't that what part of you wants too? Rose shook her head, smiling through tears. I do want it. I'm just scared, Alex. If we force it, he might be hurt in the end. If people find out who surrounds you and judge him, I don't know if he can handle it. Don't worry about the world, Mr. Ramirez said firmly. I'll handle that. What matters is that he never feels alone, and you're not alone in this fight anymore. Rose studied his face a long time, searching for any lie. All she found was sincerity, remorse, and a promise. At last, she sighed. For Eli, I'll agree. Even just once, Alex. Let him feel what it's like to have a family. Mr. Ramirez smiled faintly. For the first time in years, their eyes met not as employer and housekeeper, but as Eli's parents. For the first time in years, a different peace settled over the mansion. Not the old, cold, businesslike air, but something warmer. In the days that followed, new sounds filled the place. Children's laughter, the slap of small sandals running down the hall, the soft conversations between Alex and Rose. One morning, Mr. Ramirez arrived at the hospital with a small box. Inside were a new school uniform and supplies. These are for you, Eli, he said, handing them over. You need to get back to school. I'll handle all the expenses. Eli was stunned. Dad, is this really for me? Yes, Mr. Ramirez said with a smile. No child should have their dreams cut short. I know you'll go far. Eli's eyes shone and he hugged him. Thank you. I promise I'll work even harder. Mr. Ramirez didn't forget Rose either. He made sure the best doctors saw her and that there was always medicine ready. Don't worry about the hospital bills, he told her gently, reviewing receipts. I'll take care of them. Your only job is to get better. Rose lowered her head, fighting tears. Alex, I don't know how to thank you. You don't have to, he replied. I neglected you for a long time. This is how I make it right. One afternoon, Eli and Mr. Ramirez walked the small hospital garden path. Eli held the necklace his mother had given him. Dad, he asked, why are you doing so much for us? Don't you get tired? Mr. Ramirez smiled. If the result is seeing you smile and your mom safe, I won't get tired. I used to think only business mattered. Since meeting you, I've learned there are things more important than wealth. Eli smiled and squeezed his father's hand. Thank you, Dad, for never getting tired of helping me and Mom. Mr. Ramirez paused, smiled wider, a tear slipping down. You're the treasure I'll never tire of, son. When Rose saw this, fear pricked her heart again, then eased when she saw how happy Eli was and how real the change in Alex seemed. Rose, Mr. Ramirez said one evening, I won't ask for your trust all at once. I know I hurt you, but will you give me a chance to prove I'm not the same Alex you knew? Rose was quiet, then nodded. For Eli, I'll give you a chance. Alex showed his change in small ways. He brought homemade soup to Rose himself. He went to Eli's school to make sure his supplies and enrollment were in order. Sometimes they shared a simple dinner at the hospital. Sometimes they watched a show on the small TV. In every moment, trust slowly rebuilt itself. One night, as Eli lay down, Rose asked, Are you happy with how things are? Yes, Mom, he answered with a grin. It feels like we're not alone anymore. It feels whole. I hope we'll always be like this. Tears glistened in Rose's eyes. She glanced at Alex, dozing in a chair, worn out. Respect long lost began to return. Morning came bright at the mansion. Every corner glowed, not the cold quiet of before. Staff hurried to prepare for a grand gathering. Flowers, white linens, long tables spread across the lawn. Today wasn't just talk, it was the day Alex would formally acknowledge Eli as his son. In a back room, Rose helped Eli get ready. He wore a new collared shirt and slacks that suited him perfectly. She smiled for him, though her heart trembled. "Eli, are you ready?" she whispered. "What if people don't like you?" Eli smiled and squeezed her hand. "Mum, Dad said not to be afraid. Whatever happens, he's here, and you're here, so I'm whole." Rose teared up and hugged him. At last, she felt she wasn't fighting alone. Guests arrived one by one. Company directors, neighbors, a few relatives, business friends. Many wondered why they'd been called for a special announcement. "What's this about?" some whispered. "Something about the company?" "No," others murmured. "They say it's about a child." At the center of it all stood Alex, dignified, eyes softer than before. No longer the icy billionaire, now a father ready to fight for his own blood. He stepped onto the small platform and faced the crowd. Silence fell. "Friends, family," he began. "For too long I've hidden in the shadow of my past. Today I want to set things right. A child has shown me that life is worth more than wealth and deals." He looked to the side. "Eli, come here." Eli walked forward, holding his mother's hand. The guests grew still, surprised at the sight. Alex placed his hands on the boy's shoulders and spoke boldly. "Everyone, this is Eli Ramirez, my son, my own flesh and blood. From this day forward, he's not a child of poverty or absence. He is my son. Nothing can change that." Gasps, then smiles, then applause. Those who had doubted stared at Rose, who couldn't hide her tears. "I never thought this day would come," she whispered, wiping her cheeks. "I hid it for so long. I carried it alone, but not anymore." Alex stepped down, took Rose's hand before everyone. "Thank you, Rose, for raising Eli. I can't repay what you did, but from now on you won't be alone." Rose cried, but behind the tears was relief. Eli stood between his mother and father. "Mom, Dad, now we're whole. I don't need to borrow anything anymore because my greatest treasure is my family." The guests laughed softly. Some wiped their eyes. The boy who once begged for help, promising to pay it back. "When I grow up," now received something far richer than money, a father who would claim him for life. The gathering ended with a joyful meal. Eli played with other kids on the lawn, while Rose and Alex sat together, watching. "Rose," Alex whispered, "thank you for giving me this chance. I won't let our lives fall apart again." "For Eli," Rose answered, "I'm willing to trust again." Their eyes met, and despite every wound and sorrow of the past, hope for a new day gleamed between them. As the sun set, Eli called out, "Mom, Dad, come on, let's eat together." They came, joined hands, and in that simple moment a new beginning was drawn, not just for Eli but for all of them. Thank you for listening. It's Mr. Hope again. Subscribe to this channel for amazing stories.